Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. So today we're going to take a look at 5 bad habits that could be potentially limiting our progress with legato technique. Bad habit number 1 is probably one of the most common but also one of the easiest fixes, and that's just picking too hard. And it makes sense why picking hard might seem like a good idea where legato playing is concerned. If we put more momentum in the string, we've got a stronger chance that our legatos, our hammer-ons and pull-offs are more likely to sound. What actually happens if we pick too loud though, we tend to get a very loud note every time we change string, and the legato notes that follow are much quieter in comparison, which actually highlights this inconsistency and makes for a less fluent sounding technique. Just to demonstrate, if I play this run and I pick too hard, we can hear there's the big kind of dynamic variation there, and if I lighten up with the pick, it's much smoother, much more fluent. So really we're trying to bring the volume of the pick notes down to match the legato notes rather than vice versa. So bad habit number 2 goes hand in hand with bad habit number 1. If we're picking too hard, there's also a strong chance that we're also applying too much pressure with the fretting hand. It's actually very difficult to play heavy-handed with the picking hand and not have that mirrored in our fretting hands. So a good test for this, we're going to play a note and we're going to apply the usual amount of pressure we would. We're then going to pick that note continuously and we're going to take pressure off as we're picking. And ideally what we want to find is that as soon as we take pressure off, that note starts to buzz, because that means we're using just enough pressure to make sure that we have a clear note without using any excess. If you find that you are pressing down too much, all you want to do is find where that sweet spot is, where the note buzzes, and then apply just a little bit more just to make sure that we don't have any fret buzz going on, but we can still hear our notes clearly. And this is a test worth doing on each string. So just to demonstrate, if I take this note, I'm going to pick that continuously now and take pressure off. And as soon as I do, we can hear it mute there. So that's what we want to aim for. And another way we can implement this, if you really want to make sure that this test is kind of in line with whether you're actually applying any more pressure when doing legato, is if you play a run but interrupt it midway through and then do this test. So if I go and then stop here and do the test, again, you'll see there whether you're using too much pressure or not. So bad habit number 3 then, this is practicing with a tone that is going to hide mistakes or inconsistencies rather than highlight them. And this can be using too much gain, too much delay, reverb or compression. So anything that makes it feel a little bit easier to play and, as I say, hides any mistakes or inconsistencies we might have in our technique. Really, when we're practicing, we want the most honest representation of what our playing actually sounds like. So ideally, we want to be practicing with a tone that's kind of on the edge of breakup, very little delay, reverb, and certainly no compression in there. So fairly similar to the tone I have now. Not the most enjoyable tone to play, but a good, honest tone that will tell us if there are any weak spots in our technique. If you want to make that even more awkward, bridge pickup, and particularly if you've got a split coil guitar or a single coil guitar, that's going to give you an even clearer insight if there are any inconsistencies in the technique there. So number 4, we've actually got a good habit we can start using rather than a bad habit to avoid, and that's practicing in front of the TV. And the reason for this being is that to get any technique fluent, be it alternate picking, legato, sweep picking, whatever you might be practicing, to get something completely fluent and consistent is going to take an awful lot of practice, an awful lot of repetitions. So being able to practice in front of the TV is just a way of making that slightly less laborious and boring. That's not to say that when we pick up a new technique, I'd immediately binge Netflix. Really what we want to do is get the consistency of whatever it is we're practicing to around 90%, and where we can subconsciously monitor it to make sure that it's accurate. We don't want to drill this and then introduce bad habits. We want to make sure that our technique is good and that it sounds good, and really that we can kind of monitor it with how it sounds and how it feels is a big one, rather than having to look at the guitar. But this is really going to let you fast track your progress, and particularly that muscle memory that we need to build that consistency with legato technique. So number 5 is probably one of the biggest and most common, and this is not practicing with a metronome. The reason it's so important to practice with a metronome, particularly when playing legato, is that 99% of the time as guitarists, the rhythms we generate come from our picking hand, not our fretting hand. So generally we have a better kind of control of time and feel with our right hand to begin with, or our picking hand. So for the most part, when we're dealing with legato, we are looking at 4 subdivisions, and that's 8th notes, 16th notes, 8th note triplets and 16th note triplets, and that's going to be 2, 4, 3 and 6 notes per click. So just to demonstrate, I've got a metronome set to 80 BPM. I'm just going to move through those 4 subdivisions now. As I say, if you did want to see a full video on how to practice with a metronome with regards to legato technique, if you click on the video on screen now, that'll take you there. Otherwise, if you did enjoy the video, please do click like and subscribe. Any questions, drop them in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.